Now call to order the Town Council Work Session Tuesday, August 12, 2025 at 4:00 p.m. in Council Chambers at 150 East Monroe Street in Wytheville. First thing on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I would need a motion or somehow amended.
Mayor Taylor, at this time, I'd like to amend the agenda. I would like to amend the agenda to add a closed meeting pursuant to the Virginia Code 2.2-3711A to discuss a personnel issue.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? This be a roll call vote. Councilman Hand?
No.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye. Johnson, aye.
All right. Moving forward, our first thing on the agenda is a presentation regarding the consent order and conditions at the wastewater treatment plant, and we have a guest, Mr. Stevie Steele from CHA Representatives. So, sir, if you would come to the mic and just state your name and present for the minutes.
Okay, my name is Stevie Steele. I am a licensed professional engineer. I work for a company called CHA Consulting, and we are in Blacksburg, Virginia. I worked for 12 years before that with Anderson and Associates. That was my first job for many years, so I'm no stranger to this area or the community. Best Chinese restaurant in the country is in the middle of town, so I'm proud to be able to work on this project and bring my expertise to the town, both technically and more importantly on the funding arena. So I'm going to be presenting on both of those. I grew up in Giles County, born and raised there, and except for a small stint of going off to Emory and Henry for school, and then thinking I could make it in Atlanta, Georgia for a long time. Did not work out. It was something. So I'm proud to call this my home and glad to help you, the residents, the businesses, and help you navigate through the consent order and some other challenges that the town has in front of them. So I don't want to get too far in the weeds, and I do believe you may have seen this already, but I wanted to take some time to put a little more technical comments with each one of these slides. This is what we have summarized in a very detailed preliminary engineering report. And for lack of a super long description, that is a health check of the treatment plant from all aspects. When the wastewater comes into the plant, goes through all the treatment pieces, and then when it finally comes out clean and discharges into the stream. So what condition are all those components in? Is there anything that we can save? What are the risks of not replacing certain things? All of that we've spelled out in great detail in that report. And a lot of time only the regulators read those. It is not a fantastic read. I'll just be honest with you, unless you're an engineer person. But I do want you to know that that will be the roadmap that we use as we work with council and funding agencies to justify and make decisions on how the town moves forward as they move into this process of spending a lot of money and wanting to tell constituents why and what happens if you don't spend the money. And I've been doing this for 25 years. This is what I do. My job is to come to council and give you the tools you need, whether that's me or the PER or additional evaluations, to be able to answer somebody when you're in the shopping center or the restaurant or the hair salon and they say, what is going on? Why are we doing this? Why is my rate going to go up? I want to empower you with the data you need to say, let's go, sit down, and I will show you. That is very helpful to do up front before we're in the throes of doing something that you have to do because something failed. Then we're just trying to keep our head above water. And so we do not want to get to that point. And so my goal is to stay ahead of that, help you understand, then give you the tools you need to help others understand that are looking for you to look out for them as they're voted in public servant. So I know all about that. I was on the school board in Giles for 8 years, and it was the toughest 8 years of my life. So
It's not bad.
oh, it was.
It's overrated. You're right making it sound bad.
We're in the middle of an $80 million renovation to every building in Giles County because we didn't do anything to any of them. And they all appreciated it at the same time. That's another meeting and another conversation altogether. So I'm going to kind of work through the plant from the headworks all the way through the end. And I always say a picture's worth 1,000 words. If you're not an engineer and you don't know anything about wastewater treatment, the picture should be enough to say we have gotten, and this is important to tell the constituents and business owners, 32 years of useful life out of a lot of this equipment. That is 2 years longer than it should have survived. I wish that I could tell you that they make things like they used to moving forward. They do not. If any of you have a new washing machine or a new dryer, they don't do the job that the old ones used to. However, technology has gotten better so that we're able to be more efficient with things. So this is some of the things that are at the headworks. Again, I want to focus on the fact that you got 32 years of life out of them. Plant drain pump station, they require frequent replacement. And so the analysis that we do in our evaluation is, does it make sense to continue to replace something? Or after 4 replacements, could you have already bought a brand new one? And we're focusing on that more and more in this industry because it was actually praised when operators could just keep things going forever and ever and ever. Because to that meant to people that didn't understand replacement and salvage value that they're doing a great job. They just keep this thing alive. But you got to do the calculation. If keeping it alive, you could have bought 3 new ones, then you're not making the right decision. You have to know that it's better just to go ahead and get new. So that's kind of what the bucket those are in. So there are multiple critical components of the primary clarifiers that include drives, the chain. All of those things will need to be addressed and replaced. The aeration configuration and controls can be optimized for things that the plant need to do to stay in regulatory compliance. Aeration blowers replacement, again, that's another thing that we're going to be able to save, provided energy efficiency. So some of the buzzwords that I like to use so that folks in the community feel like we're doing our due diligence. Is there an opportunity when we do projects like this to become more green friendly? Can we show that we are reducing the impact to those types of things, whether it's the atmosphere, whether it's waste, whether we're using more fuel or electricity consumption? Those things we need to maximize because the technology has come a long way with all of those types of things. We actually get points on applications for saying that we're going to work really hard to try to reduce energy consumption, fuel consumption, and reduce our footprint impact to the environment in general. So all of those things will be kept in mind as we move forward. There's multiple critical components of the secondary clarifiers also that need to be addressed. The chlorine and sulfur dioxide gas dilution equipment are obsolete now. And so this is not the only plant that we're working on right now. I've got 2 other plants that one is 50 years old, and for the last 6 years, they've been buying parts on eBay. And that's great. But the people coming through, and this is something we'll talk about as this journey moves forward, If you're lucky to find another operator when the one you have retires, and I say that because it's a real thing, if you're lucky enough to find one, this plant better be fairly easy to operate. Because gone are the days of somebody come straight out of high school and working under a very good operator for a decade, learning the craft, and being able to do all the things that that previous generation can do. That is not the world we live in now. We're trying to get programs started as early as the technology centers in the high schools to start trying to get those kids early before they waste their time at a university and roll up $100,000 student loan and they come out and they don't do anything with it. So we're trying to grab that generation earlier and say, look, if you get into VRS now, you will retire when you're 45 years old. And so thinking about what we need this plant to be able to do with what you're going to have to operate it is also something that is very important. New pump station is below flood level, and all things flood related we're going to pay a lot of attention to. We're paying a lot of attention to that with the emergency clarifier project right now to make sure that you are in the best position you can to address those flood issues moving forward. These are just more pictures of things that are deteriorated on the solids thickening. The anaerobic digesters, those bricks might have been pressed in the 1930s. I mean, that is indicative of things being around for a long time. This is something that we want to address. A lot of the safety and code requirements have changed since these plants were built. So while they're grandfathered in, we want to make sure that the operators are safe, we're meeting OSHA codes, and that we do all that as safely as possible. This is the belt press. We want to refurbish that in the control panel. And the switchgear. Switchgear is probably the number one thing that we find is obsolete because electronics are moving faster than anything else. And so we want to make sure that that is properly selected and designed so that the plant can be operated effectively. And lastly, these, they're all over the state, but that is a chart recorder that uses an ink pen and a dial. You won't find that on eBay. So that is an obsolete way to track your data. SCADA is one of the things that you can put the money into that has the biggest impact. Now with technology, we can send information from that plant anywhere we want to if we pay attention. So I've got places that the operator says, yeah, I'm a class 1. If I have a certain type of technology, if I don't have to be on at the plant 24/7, that is a significant savings. If I don't have to have so many operators, if I can have fewer shifts, that SCADA allows somebody to see something even when they're not at the plant, no matter where they are. And if we choose, you can actually make some of that plant be able to be operated remotely. So this is the piece that I'm actually here for. So I'm gonna stop and see if there's any question about the technical piece, and I would certainly entertain any questions if you wanted to look through that report or just digest some of this and put some questions together, run them through Elaine or however you want to do that, and I can get answers back. I expect there to be questions through this entire process because this is a big capital project. Should the town choose to drive through this, it's going to be a lot, and I think it's very important that council understands how important it is to know what you are or aren't going to do and what results from that. So something I did for the city of Galax, they're in the same boat with their water treatment plant. And for years, the operators had come to city council and said, we need money. This plant's old. We need to fix stuff. Right behind them would come VDH with an award that says, here's an award, you created some of the cleanest water in the state of Virginia. Council's like, well, what? I don't understand. We just got an award. Why do you need money? That plant's putting out fantastic quality water. I'm like, yeah, I got this handle and I got a picture of that. I should have brought it. This is a vice grip wrench on this valve because there's not been a handle on it for 10 years. So there's a vice grip on it. That's how I'm operating that valve. I'm holding this thing together by duct tape and shoestrings. That's what I do. We're going to keep producing great water, but when failure happens, it is not going to be something that I can do anything about. It's going to fail, and this plant will be down for 2 months. So I did a risk of failure on one side, and all the fancy words for the equipment is labeled there. Nobody really understood any of that, but what is the risk of that equipment failing? 1 to 5. What is the result of that failure? Is it death? Is it loss of business? All of them were 5 across the board. And they were like, once you see that, how do you unsee that? So the challenge I have is giving you, again, the information you need to say, look, I know that if we have to have any kind of a rate adjustment, that is something that nobody wants to talk about. But do you want to see the plant on CNN because we're having to send raw sewage into the stream? And we knew for a long time that just some tough things had to happen. So I need to be able to give you all of that data so that you can make informed decisions. So all that to say, is there anything else on the technical side now that would help you? And I know that that's a lot, but if you want to get questions back to me at any time, I'm certainly willing to field those and get answers back to you. So what I do want to do is bring some sunshine in to all that not maybe so awesome. Talk about some money. So about 20 years ago, I figured out that we were doing an awful lot of work in rural communities, areas that didn't have big databases, that needed work done, and they just didn't have a way to fund it. And so I started doing all things funding. I dug into everything that would help these parts of Southwest Virginia. And so over the last 20 years, I've developed a portfolio of all these different funding mechanisms. There's certainly more out there than this, but these are the ones that I believe align most appropriately with the town, your MHI, your demographics, your location, and the type of project that we have. So I'll just start at the top. In each one of these, I've tried to put together what I think would be important to council, and that is, when would the applications be due? When would the funding award, how many times do they make that money available? The terms of the money, is it all grant? Is some of it loan? And then what are the probabilities that grant could be available for this project through this particular funding program? So the EPA Disaster Supplement for Grant program, that is money that is getting a lot of attention right now because of Helene and other types of disaster things that have been happening over the last 4 years. That is an open submission. The application is fairly lengthy, but I think what's important for council to realize about this one, when you apply, you have to have your 20% match available, and you have to be willing to say it is unobligated. So if you had a $10 million project, you got to be able to come up with $2 million and say, not that it's in the general fund, but allocated somewhere else. You have to say that it is absolutely free. If we had to tap it right now, we could write that check and give it to you.
Sort of like a sinking fund. It has to be reserved for that.
It has to be there in full. And the reason they do that is because they've had a couple of projects where they got burned. So everybody's like, yeah, we got it. We're ready to go. EPA says, here's your offer. You're ready to ante up? They're like, we got to work on that. We probably got about 8 months before we can actually pull all that together. And I'm like, what are you doing? We turned down 2 or 3 other communities that had it because your points were better. So that's the kicker with that one. Now, I'm working with a couple other places that have done some things like this. They have that in the fund balance, but to reduce that to 0 would be fiscally irresponsible. So they're not willing to do that, but they do have other applications that are awaiting announcement, as are you with the DEQ funding application that we just put in. So they're going to say, yes, we have it in the fund balance, but we want you to be totally clear. We want to be clear that we don't intend necessarily to use that bucket of money. We're going to tell you we have it, but when our funding comes in later, we're going to swap those out. And as long as it's not federal funds, you can use state funds as your match. As long as that money comes in, you can say, okay, we're replacing our fund balance, Annie, with this money that came in from DEQ, for example.
And you said we can only use state funds, not federal.
Federal cannot be used as match.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that one is open submission, and they will take applications until their money is gone. So that really depends on how many they get, how big the requests are. And so that's something that I would work with staff. I went to school and I'm still really good friends. I hope this doesn't hurt me, with Brian Reed from the Mount Rogers PDC. So we've done a lot of grant writing together. And so he said to tell you that we had already talked. I'm going to talk about some of his stuff a little bit later, but his office will certainly be helpful if we decide to move forward with any of these funding mechanisms. The congressionally directed spending bucket, I think for the next couple of years, that's probably going to be around. And what happened with that, the congressional folks decided they wanted to start scraping some money off the top before it went out to all these other funding places, because they wanted to have the ability to directly send money where they wanted. I say it's for votes, but they say it's to help places that they want to absolutely help. So that's a little bit political, and that requires you to get in front of your congressional folks and make a case that this is where they should send some of their money. And that's all grant money, and it's clean. I call it clean because it doesn't require some of the bells and whistles that some of the other funding programs require, like Buy America, Build America, American Iron and Steel. Some of the funding I'm going to talk about in a second, they got a lot of programmatic teeth. And we do that for you, but it's nice when they say, here's the money, go. Be as efficient with it as you can. USDA Rural Development is open submission until their money's gone. They have a local pot of money, and then if they have any left over after their funding period, that all gets pulled together into the national rural development bucket. And you can still compete for it then, but it's a lot harder because you're competing with everybody in the country at that point. But Robert Hill is the area specialist. He's got an office right up here on the hill in that building, and he's been wonderful. They do have a lot more requirements, and if you want grant money, your rates have got to be 1.5% of your median household income before you even qualify for grant money in their program. So I think you're close to the 1% range right now. So you're going to qualify for grant with DEQ, but you would probably have to evaluate and perhaps adjust rates some to get to the grant money with rural development. Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, we just submitted an application on the town's behalf in July. So that is being evaluated right now. They usually announce the offers in October. And those offers can be everything from a fairly hefty amount of principal forgiveness, and that's what they call grant money. It could be a combination of low-interest loan and some grant. They do a lot of 0%, which is you're pretty much paying yourself back. I'm telling folks now that even the ones that have 2 to 2.5%, with inflation, you're still winning because that 2.5% rate never changes. So as the economy inflation races ahead of that 2.5% loan money, that's like my kids are like, what would my house rate be now? And I'll be like 8%. They're like, what's yours? I'm like 1.8. I mean, because I got it like 20 years ago. So that's kind of an example of why that low rate. But 0% is really something they do a lot of. So that's a good possibility. So we won't know until they offer what combination of grant, loan, low interest that the town gets. And you're not obligated to take that unless you're okay with it. And so that what'll happen, they'll send a letter, probably to Elaine, that says this is your offer. It includes this much grant, this much low interest loan. Please review this and let us know whether your intent is to move forward or if it just doesn't work for you. And some places, it's not the right time for them. It's not the offer they wanted, and there's no harm, no foul. You can get right back in and apply the next year if it's not the right time or the right combination of funding. VRA pooled financing. So there is no grant money in that program, but you are guaranteed to get the amount of money that you ask for, and it's strong, guaranteed money because that they take all the people who are requesting money and they pull them together twice a year and they issue bonds to people that want to have a strong anchor in their portfolio of assets. So government issued bonds are the strongest, most guaranteed bonds that they're issued. So they're very popular for people who also have tech funds and things that are risky. So that happens twice a year, you're going to get that money. They do not tell you how to spend it. They do not tell you you have to do Davis-Bacon wages. You don't have to interview the employees. There's no BABA. There's no AIS. You take that money and you spend it the way you want to, but you're not going to get any grant money out of that program. Mount Rogers PDC. So every year they have a memo out for applications for a technical assistance bucket, which is up to $20,000. And then you can also request $100,000 for construction projects. So Brian said that because he's actually had fewer and fewer requests each year. So what we think would be helpful is, for sure, he said this year he could probably do $50,000 towards design, which is still $50,000 is $50,000. And when and if construction comes along, he would definitely do $100,000 for multiple years, as long as that construction was going on.
Who did you say that was, sir?
What's that?
Who did you say that was?
Brian Reed? Yeah.
Sorry, just making names.
No worries, no worries. So that's local money, and it helps. The SER CAP program is similar. They're out of Roanoke, and they help probably with $50,000 to $100,000 every year that we could sprinkle in to also try to offset some costs. And those aren't big hitters, but it's still, $100,000 is. Sometimes I forget, like some of these numbers that we throw out when we talk about these projects, if they came across in my mailbox, I would pass out. So you kind of get numb when you think about municipal budgets. I just said $100,000 is not that much. That is a life-changing amount of money for a resident or even a small business owner. So just in the context of the cost of things, it does. Every little bit helps. Now, again, these are not all of the funding mechanisms that are out there. And Brian, myself, and others in the funding arena literally something comes out every week where somebody has allocated an enormous amount of bucket to either Helene disaster recovery or fortifying equipment. Like DHCD has one out there. I just talked to Brian. If we wanted to try to get funded for the generator piece of this, there's money through the DHCD program for that right now. He said that, but that's constantly changing. So he'll get an email every week that says, yeah, this program may be phasing out, but we got 2 more coming that they're going to get funded next month. Let's start training you on how to get that money out into the economy. So we just got to keep our eyes on all those, knowing that even if we started design today, this project would not start for probably a year. So this is when I want to be in front of you, helping you develop the right financial plan, the right phasing, the right project, and the right path for the town. So that's what I've got for today. If there's anything I can help clarify or answer now or in the future, I'm certainly going to be available.
I just have one question. From start to finish, what would you estimate the time if we did a full construction, I mean, from start to finish?
From the time the contractors started on the project,
Like,
18 months, I would say, is something that we don't run into anything. That's about what we've talked about, isn't it? Yeah. Yep.
So you had mentioned about floods early on, and about, it seems like the flood issues are now more frequent and more severe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so are we gonna, in our construction, take that into consideration and try to get it out of a potential floodplain area?
Yes. So the components that we're doing the emergency replacement on now are the 2 clarifiers that got floated out of the ground during the last major event. So what we're doing there, and we're trying to, town staff is trying to make sure that the FEMA money that's leveraged is used as efficiently as possible. So right now, raising those enough to get them all the way out of the floodplain, we need to make sure that we don't do that when it could possibly be funded with maybe FEMA or grant dollars later. And so we're going to do the emergency work and get the plant back online, but we're going to do it in a way that if funding comes available later, we don't have to tear that out and redo it. It's already going to be built in a way that you just add to and get those walls high enough that we don't have the flood issue. So we're doing all that in preparation, so when money does come, everybody's like, well, they already planned for that. We can just add to them and get the walls up high enough so water doesn't pour into them when the flood comes.
Mr. Steele, that was one of my questions. What if we're in the process of doing the upgrade and the project, and in the meantime, we have, say, God forbid, another hailing come through? Will we still be covered, or is there like so much you have to build that you all will, take charge of and cover?
We would, the plant will still operate as it did for many years when it had flood issues. We're just going to make sure they never float out of the ground again. So Tony has kept that plant going through major events. It just, this one happened to be the one with all of the right things happening that,
Perfect storm.
when it floated them out, bent metal in them, you can't do anything
Right.
with them. But these are going to be fortified so that it doesn't matter if they were 3 foot underwater, they're not going to float out of the ground.
Thank you.
And you all are not the only folks that have treatment facilities in floodplains, because that was the most popular place to build them, because nobody else wanted to build a house there. They didn't want to see the plants, so they tucked them over in the lowest spot in town. That's where all the sewer needs to run by gravity anyway. It was perfect until it wasn't. And so we see this a lot. So I don't think anybody made any poor decisions 40 years ago. It's where these plants are typically located. So other than a couple of events that are major, I think that is still a very correct place for the plant. It would certainly be a very costly endeavor to abandon that site and start over with a whole new facility. So somebody may ask that question. I'll be certainly ready to answer why that wasn't what we recommended.
Well, we appreciate you trying to educate us on this, what's going on and everything. We really appreciate what you're doing to help, our employees and our citizens. And
Staff has been extremely helpful, and typically I maybe have to do some balancing act with staff saying, look, we got a chance, let's put everything gold plated in and this thing will run itself. And that's not been the case. I've actually had to say, look, I know you think that's enough, but we got to do a little more than that. So they are very mindful that we've got to hit the mark on this and be able to justify the decisions that you all have to make. And I'm certain this won't be the first time I'm standing in front of you. So I look forward to helping you with the journey, whatever that journey is you decide. We will put everything we got into it and make sure you get as quality a product as you can get.
appreciate
Great
that.
presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much.
Okay, we're going to change up the agenda just a little bit. So next on the agenda will be a review of a quote for Blue Light Towers. Director of Parks and Recreation, Josh Harris.
Hello, I'm just basically here to answer questions based on the quote that was provided by Nightscope following their presentation. So I believe that was included in that was provided to you and included in your packet. So I'm just here to answer any questions and then to seek guidance on how you would like to direct staff to move forward with that project.
Anybody have any questions or concerns or? Might not have had time to absorb it.
I think it's a great idea. Very good for safety for our community.
Thank you. I would like to move forward so that we can add these to our community to enhance the safety for our citizens that go to our parks.
I, as well, would like to continue with this project. I think it's very important, and I feel like it's really good, and I'd like to see it move forward.
So by forward, do we mean we're doing every step at one time, or?
Mayor Taylor, I'd like to see us do every step at one time. I know they might do just like one poll at a time. Did they ever explain did they were going to do that? Will they just do them all together? Would they do like one poll and then another poll and another poll?
This quote included the town installing those.
Okay.
So we would order them all at once, and then our guys would put them in as they're available to do so.
Okay. And that's Public Works, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sherritt.
So, unfortunately, it gives me heartburn after listening to that other presentation of how much money we're going to need.
You as director, do you find that this is the best policy to go, and are we getting the best product for the money that we're investing?
I feel that this company seems to be a reputable company, easy to work with in my conversations with them. They definitely provide the product that we're looking for at a cheaper rate than the ones that I was initially able to obtain. And if this is the direction that we feel that is best to go, then I think this would be a good company to work for.
Very good. I'll say let's do it.
So we're gonna do all 4 of them at one time?
Yeah, these 4, what were included in this was Withers Park, Elizabeth Brown, the T-Ball Park, and Crystal Springs.
I'd like to see it go too. All at one time if possible.
So do we need to make an amendment to, do we need to make a budget amendment to include the funds in this year's budget so that he can move forward? I don't think it was included. So do we need to do an amendment for the $48,470 so that we can move forward with providing safety for our community in the parks?
I believe the budget amendment could come in the spring, but we would need to authorize, or appropriate the money.
Yes, ma'am.
The $48,470, is that the total amount, Josh?
Yeah, for this year, and then each concurrent year following that would be $5,640 for those subscriptions associated with that, so.
So you would have an annual amount every year that Josh would add into his budget, or someone would add into his budget.
Okay.
So the 5,000, Mr. Sherritt's, 5,640, would come out of your budget after we get these installed?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so in this first year with the warranty, the 1-year warranty that would be included in that, we're looking at $2,040 in subscriptions, and that includes the monitoring software as well as the cellular service with that. And then in year 2, we would include the full service maintenance agreement, which would be $900 per unit or $3,600 annually with that. So total of $5,640 after year 1 that we would include in that for annual
So it's
subscription.
coming out of your budget, but we didn't have it in your budget.
Correct. I do not have any of this in my current budget.
Right, but next year you will, okay, awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I would just include that in our
The
budget submittal.
subscription amount.
Subscription.
I mean, I think it's a great idea myself. I'm just a little bit being overwhelmed with how much money that the town is listening that we need to do and whatnot. We've only been, about 3 months into this budget, and we probably have gone over $1 million of items that have not been budgeted. So that makes me very uncomfortable.
I do understand your concerns, but it never got budgeted when I asked for it 2 years ago. So had it gotten budgeted previously when I asked for these, I don't think we would be where we're at now.
And I do have concerns about spending, but this is a public safety issue, and for me,
I hear that.
everything that we have voted on, including a new fire truck, is a public safety issue. Excuse me, so not everything, but the majority of these things are public safety, so.
And
but
I
do
agree,
have
it
the
is.
same
I mean, our
concerns
parks
on
are
spending.
getting a little bit crazy, and our citizens need to have, so I get what you're saying. I just want to make sure that we as a whole try to keep up with what we're what we're spending. We've got a lot of months left.
Absolutely, agreed.
Mr. Sherritt, I'm fully on board. Great presentation, and thank you for working, and Vice Mayor, thanks for working that together, thank you.
Josh, got one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me. The annual voice and data service, it says here you're planning to use Verizon.
Correct.
Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we use Verizon?
The town currently uses US Cellular for everything.
Uh-huh.
However, US Cellular doesn't have the greatest service at Crystal Springs. Verizon, we were able to get 2 bars, which was enough to make a solid call or stream the video or photos that we may need off of that. So we've elected with this, with all the other parks, to be able, because Verizon does cover that, all those areas. They could not, this company could not work with US Cellular.
Okay. Just got a letter today from US Cellular saying they are partnering with T-Mobile,
Correct.
so that wouldn't help.
No, this company, I guess their contracts are with AT&T or Verizon. AT&T did not have great service at Crystal Springs, but Verizon does.
And that will be the most difficult site
Correct.
to get this up and working.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
If we don't have any more questions, do we have a motion?
So move.
Second. In a second. Any discussion? Hear none, we'll do a roll call vote. Start with Vice Mayor.
Johnson, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Patterson, aye.
And I.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sherritt.
Thank you for working with me on that. I appreciate it.
So next on the agenda is discussion regarding the installation of proposed delineate over the 20th Street Bridge by Director of Public Utilities and Engineering, Billy Anderson, please.
This project, as far as the bridge rehabilitation, the asphalt's been placed on it. We are slated to receive our final safety inspection probably next week from Schwartz & Associates, who's our consultant for the final inspection. I had a discussion with the bridge inspector and bridge engineer for VDOT regarding the potential of putting overhead crossbars, vertical clearance guards on the bridge to assist us in preventing overweight vehicles from utilizing it either knowingly or unknowingly. John Bechtel's the bridge resident engineer. Lance Click, who is the bridge inspector for our area of VDOT, indicated that they believe that was a positive idea, being that this is a town structure. The town basically has a jurisdiction to determine what level of additional restrictions we want on top of signage for weight limits. John's indication is that the VDOT signs bridge weights simply for litigation purposes. I mean, a sign is a sign. It doesn't restrict anything. It doesn't do anything. All it is a sign. We inspect this bridge once a year. We have daily traffic over it. You know, we're not there to sit and watch it all the time. We do have agricultural areas over there that, you know, could utilize it. We do have potential truck traffic back and forth with dump trucks and things like that. So again, the idea was to produce a situation that would dissuade as much as possible anybody to use it with a vehicle of any size, i.e. a concrete truck, fertilizer trucks, dump trucks, anything like that, even up to a potential oversized box truck, or for some reason somebody gets an 18-wheeler or for some reason. Again, the DOT indicated they thought it would be a good idea and indicated that it would be something that they would potentially approve themselves if they were the authority over the streets. But again, they indicated where the town is basically the jurisdiction of the streets, that we can add or take away whatever restrictions we want. So again, some of the ideas is to put the overhead crossbars to prevent someone from taking a bigger vehicle across it. All of you have seen vertical clearance guards at ATMs, going into Lowe's, all those types of things serve the same purpose: keep oversized vehicles out of those areas. Our only stipulation is similar to the ones at Lowe's. Those are fixed structures, or if it is a clearance guard on a DOT road, it would have to be breakaway, which would means it could be basically fall over if it was struck. Our only restriction is where this is over top of railroad, any structure we have cannot be a breakaway that would potentially fall into the tracks. So if we had better positioning, if we had intersections further away from the bridge, we could potentially install a fixed structure. If we had more of a lead up into both ends of the bridge, and we had further distances away we could keep, we could install a permanent structure in. And even if it was breakaway, it would have area to fall. But being that Jefferson Street on the north side, the intersection is really close, and Railroad Avenue on the south side is right there on it, we don't have any area to offset these structures to keep them away from a fall hazard into the tracks. A solution for that would be to have a clearance guard structure similar to what we have at Trust Bridge Park, similar to what, I hate to say this, fast food restaurants and things like that have. It is a clearance guard. It is an indicator that there's a clearance restriction, but ultimately they are either they will pivot, the top bars will pivot out of the way and either are spring loaded to come back, or they're tensioned to where they can swing away and they'll stay in that position to indicate that they've been struck. That's probably the best option we have to produce some type of visible clearance guard. Because again, they are painted up, they're dressed up to look like they're a permanent structure that they do not give. But that would, again, the presentation that there's an obstruction there, it would make somebody think twice before they attempted to travel across the bridge with dump trucks or anything like that. Because even our paving contractor was adamant about wanting to be able to use the paving machine on the bridge. The paving machine's 16,500 pounds. By the time you add that, you put asphalt in it and you try to back a dump truck up to add asphalt, you're well over 10 tons. And when our inspector really had to argue with him to indicate you can't use it. And here's why. There's probably a lot of perception that the bridge has been rehabbed. It looks great. It is. They've repaired a lot of it. But again, the weight restriction is still 10 tons, regardless of what it looks like. And people's perception is, even from the citizens on both sides of the tracks, that they cannot wait till this thing is open so truck traffic can start coming back across it. So again, I don't think they quite understand, either knowingly or unknowingly know the weight of some of their own vehicles that travel across it. So again, application of some type of cross guard over top of it to further restrict the travel of larger vehicles would probably be something that would be of value to seek in order to basically preserve the integrity of the bridge as long as we can. The construction.
Mr. Anderson, will you have like signage up there that will, and I'm sure you all will,
Yep.
like only up to?
Anything under 14.5 on a DOT, we have to sign. We have to assign weight restrictions, and anything under 14 feet 5 inches, we have to have signed. Anything above that, it's implied, it's passable. So yes, this would include a signage plan that we would have posted at all intersections coming up at the appropriate distances away, as well as the tonnage rating for the bridge will be posted on the same sides. The construction rehab project originally was budgeted about $200,000. We received the last invoice today from the bridge rehab company, Elite. With this invoice being submitted here by the end of the week, it leaves us with about $53,000 left in this line item available. If we would like to look into the installation of some additional protective measures for the bridge. These would be probably manufactured and delivered on site. We could hire a contractor because basically they are installed on concrete pedestals. The installation of them is not fancy. It's basically a concrete pedestal on the ground, and these get bolted to just like most of our wayfinding signs are with this hardware. So again,
just one quick question. So the $53,000 remains. You feel like that's enough?
From a couple of the manufacturers I've looked at, and I actually had a phone conversation with one of them that responded back to me. Similar style spin away or spring loaded steel structures delivered, not delivered, but per unit is around 43 to 47 dollars per unit. So we have, I think, available budget to secure them. That does not cover freight, but again, I don't expect the freight could be $1,000 to get all 4 of them here, and then to hire a contractor if we wanted to basically dig and set the footers in a particular place. We basically would have to set the footer height to accommodate our clearance. Now, talking with DOT, we were floating around the number of potentially having a restriction of 9 feet. All of you have seen this dump truck that Building and Design has out here in the parking lot perpetually for 60 years. That little dump truck to the top of it is right at 7 feet. To give you an idea, a 26-foot U-Haul box trailer. There was one out here in the parking lot the other day. That's 9 foot 5 inches. Those have a spec'd gross weight of about 15,000 pounds, but when people make moves, they like to make moves with as much as possible. So it's very potential that vehicle itself could exceed, just somebody moving a moving truck could exceed that. So that's one thing we should probably, potentially look at as well. Would a 9-foot clearance prohibit everything that's potentially overweight? It wouldn't. A 4-door pickup truck with a 24-foot cattle trailer with cows on it could get up to 10 ton easily. So again, it's not going to prohibit everything. It's just going to prohibit the obvious things. Again, dump trucks, concrete trucks, anything that might look at it and assume that it's acceptable to pass on. So I do believe that there's ample money available in the remaining budget to seek out a couple options, a couple quotes from particular vendors. I've seen similar guards down to $1,300. This depends on how robust we want them to look and what we're getting.
I think it sounds great. I mean, I can't see why we wouldn't consider that if you are recommending it, and it certainly makes sense. And we have funds, so it seems like it's pretty easy.
To me, I look at it as just some manner of insurance. Again, we would have spent 2.5 years with the bridge out. It could take 30 seconds for somebody from verbal, comments in the community that people are almost chomping at the bit. They can't wait till trucks and things like that start traveling across it again. I spoke with EMS. EMS doesn't even use that bridge anyway. They go down 21. Those vehicles are the biggest. What was the largest ambulance? The small one was the larger one was comparable to a 26-foot box trailer, or box, like a U-Haul truck. When we measured it, it was almost the same height as the one that was sitting out here for U-Haul. But again, smaller EMS vehicles, our utility trucks, our public utility departments, public works, all that small stuff, of moderate size can still fit across with no problem. We won't have any issue with clearance. Our fire trucks, and not the fire trucks, but the support vehicles, all the police vehicles will probably have no issue. But again, this is just to kind of prevent the general public from either, again, knowingly or unknowingly taking a vehicle that's overweight, overtop something that we've just spent, several years, and I'm not sure what the quote was that the railroad had in their portion, but again, we had originally quoted, I think our total was $157,000 quote for the rehab. So, but again, we've come under budget and we've got some left, and I think it'd be a good idea to use it to protect the bridge further.
Mr. Anderson, I'm not for sure if this would even be consideration, but I didn't know if there would be like a sidewalk where maybe larger vehicles will think that they should go over it, like a sidewalk for pedestrians in case I mean, I didn't know if that was something that maybe could be looked into.
We don't have, we had a discussion about that. The bridge clearance, as far as the horizontal clearance on it, between curb rail to curb rail, is 14 foot 9 inches. So anything under 14.5, we have to do width restrictions signage. But we don't have enough room. Actually, I had that discussion with our inspector. The engineer that did the design on our decking and railing, had that discussion with him. The bridge deck is not wide enough to produce a travel lane, a dividing barrier between pedestrian traffic, and have a walkable path.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's one thing we were thinking, to horizontally restrict it down as well. But again, we don't have quite enough room to produce that barrier between, pedestrian traffic and motorist traffic.
Great idea. Thanks for checking on that.
I think that it's something that is much needed.
Okay.
I don't know how the rest of council feels, but I think that it's something that we do need.
I think we would go get some public input on, put some public concern or comments on doing clearance restrictions, but again, I think it's for the protection of the bridge, and people will complain.
We're going to,
No, I think
You don't see
if we put them up, we'll get some, say, griping, but again, to me it's for the overall protection of the bridge, and to keep it open as long as possible.
I'm going to deviate just a little bit. So did the part of the bridge that they put down, the top of the bridge, and it wasn't thick enough, has that been resolved?
We received the inspection report from Scott Hare. He was actually on site. We had an issue with the final invoicing, because the final invoicing came back as a total, like a lump sum. I responded back to the contractor that this was a unit price and that we were only going to pay for the unit price. The engineer's suggestion was two options. Yes, we can. It did not meet spec. There's a minimum of 1.25 inches. Paved surface is what the bridge spec requires, which is what was in the design. The options are to reject it and go forth and try to get the contractor to remove the asphalt, which would also require them to remove the membrane, which, depending on how they removed all that, would potentially require them to pull up some decking material, because again, you're trying to scrape asphalt off of an irregular surface. The timbers are cut to a certain specification, but again, it's wood timbers. If you're trying to scrape off asphalt that's been overlaid on top of it, it'd be kind of difficult without potentially damaging the decking itself. And then basically having the decking put back down where it needed, and then new membrane, and then have another contractor come back in and put it on top. Option 2 was to accept it with the understanding that we paid for 18 tons of asphalt instead of 32 tons. Life expectancy is half before we start seeing some potholing issues that we could repair. Ultimately, the town would have to do the very thing that I was just talking about. We would have to go through and remove that layer of asphalt as easily as possible and have a new layer put on, because you can't go back and just have it over like we typically do the streets, because then we're increasing dead load and reducing the load capacity. So eventually we would have to do that very thing. Go through there, pull up the asphalt, which would probably require us to pull the membrane up as well, and just be as easy as we can with getting that off, then having a contractor come in and again hand form and hand lay asphalt over top of it to get us an appropriate crown. So again, he indicated that it is acceptable depending on our need to get the bridge open, and with the understanding that we will see some reduced life. We'll start seeing some potholes and some cracking a little bit sooner. We had the fire.
Like how soon? Like how soon?
Asphalt generally, we're looking at 18, 20 years on an asphalt road, but this is 10 10, 11 years before we, we will have some potholes to fix, because again, this is a, even though it's a rigid structure, it still moves. And you have asphalt. Asphalt is flexible, but again, as it ages, it loses petroleum product out of the asphalt, becomes more brittle. So again, just like he's expecting half, so that was his two options. And I think even in the report, his suggestion was to accept it, that would be his recommendation, because the alternative would be increased length of time for the bridge to stay closed, as well as again, we would have to wait if there was damage to the bridge decking. We would have to have the contractor submit to another lumber yard, secure that specification of lumber, and put it back down. I mean, we could be well into the end of the year before we would see the bridge open. So like his suggestion was to, if in fact the quantities were adjusted, to accept it, which I can see his recommendation and the validity of it. Again, the bridge has been out for 2.5 years. The only thing I could think it would be, the only other question would be, does the council want to keep the bridge closed temporarily until we have all measures in place, i.e., the one contractor that produces the overhead guards is estimating 4 weeks out from the date of order to the date of delivery. So, that would be some time frame as well. So again, we can open it up as soon as next week, whenever the final safety inspection comes back.
So it seems like to me, sir, if we're going to put in a safety measure, that we wouldn't want to take the risk of a concrete truck first week going across that bridge and having an issue.
I would agree. I mean,
I would ask that you wait just another 4 weeks, or please, until you could get those installed. That would be my.
I would agree, and we do, because we do have some signage left. Scott Hare, the engineer from Shorts and Associates, I asked him if Shorts would put me a quote together to do a DOT-approved sign plan, so we would know what signs to order and where to place them. He was in the process of just sketching one up, and he said the Shorts would he could do it in a matter of an hour, and would kick us a PDF of just the sign placement, so that. But again, he's on board with, he thinks it'd be a good idea for protection. So we do have a little bit of time before I have all the signage appropriately placed, because right now we have a 10-ton weight limit on the bridge itself, but it's supposed to be positioned elsewhere away from the bridge to give someone ample time to make a turn, to get away from it, or find different routes. So we do have a little bit of time. And again, I haven't received correspondence yet from a couple of these other vendors for the clearance guards. I don't know what their time frame is. It may be longer, maybe shorter. So I think we have a little bit of time. And again, I don't know if there's any anticipation. We, originally Elite Bridge spec'd out, it would be the 1st of November when they would complete the work. So again, if council so chooses, I think we have some time that we can utilize and look at this option.
Mr. Anderson, the day we rode the emergency route, were they putting down the timbers when we had went by there and we stopped and talked to them?
Correct.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Yeah. So those were I think there's 6 by 8 timbers, and that's, of course, that's a portion of our responsibility that we take care of over the years. But that's potentially would, if we took option 1, which was basically reject that the product that was put on the asphalt, we would potentially have to reclaim some of those and have the contractor secure new ones and put them back down, because it would damage the tops of them, which was the waterproofing does infiltrate into the timbers a certain distance, and he believed that if by pulling that up with machinery, we might get into the timbers and have wood exposed that was not treated, that was not weather resistant or could withstand the years of use.
I have one question, and someone may have asked this before I came back just a minute ago. And like I said, I know it's probably going to be a dumb question, but is there any way that we could just go ahead and put like another layer of asphalt, or is that not an option?
There's we could put another layer on that would make the appropriate pitch. However, what that would require would be for Shorts Associates to go back and do a reload rating calculation based off that tonnage of asphalt put on, which would potentially reduce the capacity. Asphalt. The reason why DOT specs minimum of 1.25 inches. You can't go back and really skim coat asphalt because when you go to roll it, everybody's made biscuits. When you roll it, all it wants to do is push out in front of the rolling pin, i.e. your compactor, and basically when it gets so thin, all it does is squeezes out in front of the roller and pushes it forward.
So it probably would not be the best option. Okay.
No, I don't think we couldn't put a layer thin enough to achieve our crown, and then we couldn't put a layer to achieve the crown thick enough without reducing.
Because it has to be able to run off at a greater rate of
We
speed.
were hoping for a little bit better sheet flow from a crown, because right now that was one of the issues that we had before was in the wintertime standing water. It freezes. Freeze-thaw cycles also degrade your asphalt as well as cause a hazard. We don't like salting it because, again, you're putting a corrosive material on a steel structure that potentially expedites the degrading of it as well as the timbers underneath of it. So, again, we typically just try to use our small trucks to scrape it and keep it clean. But, again, it's hard to scrape off frozen puddles of water like that. So, again, we were hoping for better. When the fire department came by and brought their tanker truck, we had them use the nozzle, spray it in the air to mimic a hard rain. That way we could see the sheet flow, see how it did. Because there are positions along the side curb railing with gaps. That's the intent, is that give that water a place to go and sheet flow and drain off. And again, it did drain, but we did have some areas of puddling, standing water that would sit. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, do you have a total cost that that we would need to install the delineators with all the footers and everything that you've discussed? Do you have a total amount that council would have an idea of what the total project cost would be to put in the delineators?
What I would do for, like I said, the overhead structures themselves from the one vendor was $4,300 per unit. They do have a spec for footer. I'd have to get the volume and get an estimate on concrete. Again, would we have a contractor come in and auger the holes to put the columns in? There's some expense with a little bit of steel, rebar enforcement, things like that. But I should be able to get I can look and get a construction estimate on top of, again, we'll have some freight costs to get a structure here, all four of them. And then again, the cost of some concrete. The footers aren't huge. They're 36 by 18 per the one contractor that responded back to me. So again, it's not a huge footer. It's not like we're going to have an exorbitant amount of concrete cost. I mean, a yard of concrete is $148, something like that per yard. Each of these footers might consume a yard of concrete, maybe.
But it would not exceed the 53,000.
No, I'm thinking we're probably in the ballpark of, even if we had a contractor come in and do the footers for us, I'm thinking we're probably in the ballpark of 20, 25.
Okay, so we were just trying to figure out an authorization to proceed to let you order these, so.
Okay. What I would do would be, again, we talk to Public Works and see if it's something that they would want to undertake as far as, because what we would do would be to have the footers placed in position, because the elevation of the footers would be, say for instance, these would be 9-foot clearance. We post 9 feet clearance, but there's actually 9 foot 4 inches. We have to post 3 inches below what the physical is. So we would have these footers in place well before the actual product ever showed up on site. That way we are ready for them when they get in. But I can talk to Kevin and them, and we can get an estimate on concrete. But again, it depends on if the Public Works wants to do it, or if we want to subcontract it out, or have somebody come in and dig them.
It seems like to me, since you have funds to contract it out, I mean, you have the funds.
We
there.
can, I can solicit for a couple contracts. Again, I don't expect, I don't expect us to be anywhere near the full value that we have left in the fund. Like I say, given that the units are only 4,300 apiece, I expect about $1,000 freight on them. And again, we might have,
So 25.
yeah, so I mean, that's what I'm ballparking.
Thank you.
What was the total amount of funds you said you already had?
We have left in the fund. Originally, it was budgeted $200,000 in the rehab of this bridge for construction costs. Currently, right now, I have $53,369 left, and that's after I submit the final pay app for Elite Bridge, who conducted the work, which that came in today.
Okay. And you don't perceive that it will go over the 53,000? So
mean-
do we need to have a vote to be able to move forward?
That's what's on our agenda. They were just trying to.
Okay, all right.
Now, I'm expecting, we're looking at, it's rough $17,000, over $17,000 in the apparatus themselves. I would expect freight again, it will be $1,000 for
You
freight,
can authorize not to exceed the budget, would be my recommendation to you.
which I would have secured quotes on everything to tally and make sure that I stay under it regardless before I ever
Thank you
proceed.
very much, Mr. Anderson, for all the work and all the information. I think it sounds good. So
We'll need a motion to go forward with this and with the not to exceed the $53,000.
I make a motion that we move forward and proceed.
I'd like to second that.
All right, a motion second. Is there any further discussion?
One quick thing, if the motion is passed, stipulation is we will still keep the bridge closed until these are installed.
I think it's a good
Yes, I
idea.
think that
Okay.
was the consensus.
And again, if it goes through, then I've already discussed with the one contractor, time is important, because again, with the bridge has been closed for a certain period of time, and we would like to get it open as soon as possible. And he said that, again, that's something that we could talk about manufacturing and seeing how quick they can get them here, any of them, see how quick they can get them here, because time is important, and the citizens, I would like to see it open as well as the citizens would like to see it open.
Yes. Thank you. We appreciate your presentation.
And I think a couple of years ago, I think Ms. Holton and Ms. Corvin had did a lot of backtracking and found a very important document, and I appreciate that.
So, anyway.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, it'll be a roll call vote. Start with Mr. Ham.
Aye.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Thank you guys for your time.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. We
Great
appreciate it.
presentation.
Our next on the agenda is presentation regarding a records management system and mobile data terminal upgrade at the Wytheville Police Department. Thank you, sir.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. The report that I submitted to Ms. Corvin a couple weeks ago, I did notice there's one typo. I just noticed it. We was made aware of this in April of 2025. I wrote on my report April 2024. It was actually this year that we was made aware from our partners at Wythe County that they were going to have to upgrade the 911 system to meet national standards. They've also had several failures of the 911 system, and I believe that is what possibly may have expedited them with this project. The company that they have chosen with all the input from all the area law enforcement and emergency services is Southern Software, which is somewhat of a local company. They're, I believe they're based out of North Carolina. They provide service, 911 service, and law enforcement and emergency services providers in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. Most of the law enforcement agencies in Virginia prominently use them. The system that we currently have is based out of Texas, so service is somewhat limited. So I guess that's another reason why they went with someone's more local. They actually have a technician that lives in Smith County that can come and service these. I have numbers for what it's going to cost the town of Wytheville. Wythe County, of course, it's a substantial, over close to $1.5 million project that the county is having to invest because of all the 911 equipment and all the emergency services, fire and rescue, stuff like that. So then it falls on to the local police departments, sheriff's department, town of Retreat Police Department, town of Wytheville Police Department, and the Wythe County Sheriff's Office to take care of our software end of it. And we have our current computers that we have in the cars, our computers in the offices, they'll be utilizing that hardware. So it's basically software for us. And I made Mr. Moore aware of this as soon as we found out about it in April, and your budget proceedings were basically almost complete at that time, and Mr. Moore thought that instead of trying to just throw it in, because we didn't have an exact price at that time, the contract come out in July, and originally we thought it was going to be around $93,000, and once the contract come out, our part is $89,992. 30% is due upon signing the contract, $43,402.20. 60% upon installation of all the equipment and software, which would be $31,174.40. And then upon completion of the project, the final payment, 10%, $15,413.40. And their go-live date is expected to be January 1st of 2026 coming up. Actually, and another benefit of switching the vendors for us is the yearly savings. Currently, we pay $36,000 a year for our service agreement and contract with Spielman Software. With the new vendor, it would go down to the first year, it would cost us $12,260. And then after that, it goes down to $8,000 a year versus the $36,000 a year that we're currently paying. All of our current data that is in our records management system, they are going to be able to transfer into the new system, and that's included in this cost. So all of our data, we won't have to continue paying the previous company to keep all of our data because they're able to transfer it over to the new one. So basically, we'll be starting fresh and off to go. All the other agencies have already voted to proceed with the project. The Sheriff's Department actually started using them approximately a year ago, and they've already purchased everything, and they're very pleased with it, very user-friendly. It does everything that we need to do, and they're very happy with it. So I'm confident that it's going to take care of everything we need. Our IT department knows what we have to do. It's basically the same. Everything connects to the county. So this is how we stay in contact with the county. All of our records, all of our calls, and it's how we stay connected with 911. And everything is over on the county end. And our IT department is already familiar with how we have to make the connection, and that shouldn't be any issues.
saying about it just keeps coming, it just keeps coming.
We don't have to vote on
And
anything
did you
today.
say that you was not, when you all were working on your budget, y'all were not sure as to how much it was gonna cost? Did I understand
We,
that right?
well, we didn't even, by the time y'all, we didn't even know it was gonna happen.
Okay.
And we did, and we was I was contacted by the county in the 1st of April, and I immediately contacted Mr. Moore and said, this just happened. And he's like, well, we're already basically done with the budget, you know. And Mr. Moore, under his guidance and suggestion, Mr. Moore said, let's, he mentioned it in the June 9th meeting with you all, that this is coming up, to let y'all know that a budget amendment would probably have to happen. And so, no, we didn't even know this was coming. And I do believe it's because of some of the failures that they've had over at 911 that's why it's expedited the project.
And Deputy Chief Bard, I noticed that you said that you all were maybe going to consider taking it out of just your budget, right? The police department budget?
Right, this, we already, the 89,000 is not in our current budget, no.
Well, no, sir. I mean, like when you took it to Mr. Moore, was it just going to be out of the police department budget? Like when you took it forth to him, was it just going to come out of your all's police department budget?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Well, I was just noticing here, and I don't know, but I noticed down in your notes here that this will also take care of the fire and rescue department. Is there not any way that you all could go in there and like split that, since it's between both departments, instead of just taking something out of just the police
The
department budget?
fire and rescue falls under the Wythe County Emergency Services, and they basically take care of it for them.
Okay.
This is just the law enforcement part.
Okay.
Yes, this is just the law enforcement part.
Are there any grants available at all, do you know,
I don't know.
that could help go towards this funding to bring down the amount? There's no grant
None
funding
that I know of.
available
No,
nowhere
ma'am.
in the state for
No.
anything like this?
No, ma'am, not that.
Okay. I just am checking.
Yes,
just
ma'am.
checking,
Yes,
just
ma'am.
checking.
I'll be honest with you, this would be like, this is sort of crucial for the communication, correct? And this
That's
is-
correct. If we don't participate, we are cut off from 911, from our communications and all of our record systems. We would no longer be linked with them.
I would like to make a motion to go ahead and see forth of this, since I know it was talked about prior to the budget. We didn't have all the information, found out later. I just don't want to put anybody's life, law enforcement, nor citizens in danger of cutting off communications. I'd like to make that motion. We go ahead and forth and do this.
Second.
For the,
It wasn't on the agenda as a motion, but
okay,
I think it was just FYI.
okay. Is there any way?
I mean, I'm not saying we can't do it.
No, ma'am, it's okay. We can go ahead, can we maybe?
Yes, you can go ahead and vote on it.
I heard her motion.
There was a motion and a second. You can go ahead and vote on it.
I would like to go ahead and give this money available, I guess, not to exceed $89,992.
That's correct. As a matter of fact, that's how the contract is. It will not exceed, it may actually, it probably won't, but it could possibly be less.
I'd like to see us go ahead and do that. I know it's not good timing, but
Right.
it's critical, very
Yes, ma'am.
critical
Thank you.
to our community and our officers.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.
We have a motion and a second, and is there any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Johnson, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Anderson, aye.
Hand, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, next on the agenda is the town email, internet, and computer training. Sorry, I'm reading without my glasses here.
Mayor Taylor, do you need a pair of glasses?
Yeah, I love
They're
it.
just readers.
That's all I have. Thank you, it's all you, sir. Ah,
Mayor Taylor, these are probably better.
this is fine.
Those may break. They're already broken. Sitting too close to it. Do I need to move?
Okay, just set up a quick training for the computers, email, and internet. So if we'll get started. If you got any questions, just follow up. Hopefully we can make this pretty quick. Just a few things to remind everybody about. Email scams. Everybody's run across them. You know, they come in every day. We've got filters on our system for junk mail. Occasionally it does block something that it doesn't know. It's called like a gray list. So we do see from time to time, especially if it's a new multi-factor email or something coming in, you might have to let us know to check it out and to let it come through, okay? Because some of those do come through a different site, okay? But anyways, for the first one there, you got, they send urgencies. They want you to quick response, okay? Just things that you got to look for. Just kind of look over the whole email first before y'all click on something or go about something. You've got, for the sender and recipients, let me see if I can show you. A good thing to do is just mouse over top. If you can see my mouse right there, if you hold your mouse over top of that, give it a second, it'll pop up. Sometimes that will give you a different address than what's actually showing, okay? Because that would be like a reply to. One thing to look at there, you've got like zoom.us. That's pretty common, okay? Sometimes they'll put it like a .zoom.us. Just things to look for, okay? That it might be a bad email. Now, what I've done a lot of times is just copy that link like zoom.us and just Google it. And if it is in a list of known spam or something, there's a lot of information coming up about them, okay? Okay, let's go back. We just did the sender and recipients. Grammar errors and poor spelling. You might see some of those. They come in and, you know, the words are really misspelled wrong, quite a few of them. Now, what we've been seeing lately, too, is people will change like the E's to the 3 or something, you know, to a number or a letter that gets it past the spam filters. Okay. Attachment sent from a friend. You know, we've all seen that. It comes in as somebody that we know. They just go through and they got scanners that scans websites or whatever and find these email addresses and send out spam. But they represent it as a friend. That's the way they get you to click on the email pretty quick. The next main thing would be system updates, and that's any device you have, if it's a phone, if it's an iPad, tablets or anything, is just check for system updates. A lot of times you get an old device, you don't realize it's in the end of life and it's not updating. The newer stuff will actually come up and pretty well tell you if it's out of date, but there is some, you know, if you hand it off to kids or family members and they might not realize that it's, you know, it might be fine playing games, but if it's online games, it's not secure because the updates are not there as far as the security. Okay. If we go down to the email images, I'll put this in here because of, let me find my mouse. Yeah, right there. especially on an iPhone and iPad, and you've got it on, they're using like a HEIC, which is a compaction software, and it puts all the layers in there. iPhones has got it. I think Samsung uses a different compression. But you can go in there and choose the most compatibility. And by that is most of the time it's JPEGs, okay, which is a common images. With that said, too, the other one was a photo mode. That downsizes the quality of the images. It doesn't necessarily give you the ability when you do this to edit in the layers and the actual data of the image itself. Now, it's readable. It looks like an image when you send it to somebody, but it's downsized, basically, because it's stripping all the layers out of the photo itself. And again, these images, when they're so large, going through this spam filter in these email servers, it has a time with it. Okay. One thing to do with images, though, is if you know what the size of the images are being sent that you're sending, and one way to do that is send yourself an email with a photo attached. Okay. We just ran one last month, I think it was. Somebody sent out 5 images where they were 5 meg apiece. So that was 25 megs for being sent out. So that's a good way to tell what you're sending out. And if you know that, you can send multiple emails out. So if you know it's 5 megs apiece, you could send 3 in one and 2 in another one. Okay? Doesn't make sure that you're going through even with the 15 meg, because on down on the list, it's whatever the providers, different emails, have set as their limits. Okay? And what I mean by that is if you're at home, you coming through your provider, okay? They might have restrictions lower than 10. I think I've seen 10 megs that restricts. Now, how it lets you know if it's blocked or not is becoming the issue. Because some of them we've seen will just strip out the attachment altogether. Sometimes, if you don't get anything here, one good way would be to go to the webmail and see if it's out there on the webmail, okay? Because we've looked through some of them, and they do pass through our system with that being not quite 20, because I think I sent out an email being 20 megs on our system. That does include the attachments, other size of the email itself. Now, sometimes with that, and I don't know if anybody uses the images. I think the meeting center, they've got the little icons. Break Center has the little logos and stuff on their signatures. See, that all adds up to the size of the email. Okay. Now, on number 2 here, and I'll flash the mouse. It depends where you're at and how sluggish your connection, that you might have trouble sending several attachments at one time or to multiple people. Because if you send it to multiple people, it's got to send out to each one of those. And, you can be in a building, we can be in here, and I'll have a great signal here, and I turn around, I can lose signal, okay, just that quickly. Now, if you're on an iPad or iPhone, it's because you're mobile, you could be walking through and doing something. But that's something to look at is, and I can show you, if you go down and look at your wireless connection strength, Um, that will give you some information. If I did that too quickly, like your IP address down here on the bottom. Yeah, the IP4 right there. That's should be a number that's given from your login. When you log in at home, it should give you a certain set of numbers. So one thing would be, if you're at home or different locations, just preview that and know what they should be, because, and I'll talk about it here in a second, if you have more than multiple tabs opened up on your emails, okay?
He's looking at me.
Or on your website, if you don't close them down from time to time, what will happen is, like, if I open 5 different websites up and one of them's UKG or something for a time, it sets up that private connection, okay? So when you go somewhere else and you still leave that Windows up, you just close, iPad, you just close the cover on it, it puts it to sleep. It doesn't mean it shuts it down. So when you wake it back up, it still thinks that connection's for the old connection. Okay, so you might have to play with your signal and everything to get it to come or refresh that page, because if you click on a fresh page and start opening something else, it's still got a hold on that connection. So one thing on an iPad that you can do, and even on an iPhone, is put it in airplane mode, and come out of airplane mode. You can do a restart. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Now, there's been a time or two, I didn't put it on here, what's called the DNS, and that's identifying, and it's on that, I can show you down here on the bottom, the DNS servers down here on the bottom at our IP4 address is 50 and 50.120 is what we call it, but it's 168. So if you're on another account at your house or something like that, you should have some numbers in there telling you the DNS. Sometimes those don't get renewed when the connections for the network is there. Like if it was just saying about the UKG. And the DNS is the domain name servers. It's the servers that tell you, like Google.com is at 8.8.8.8, okay? And not just a number. That's why we have the numbers here. The numbers are given to you. So one thing, when you get a connection that you can look for, and I've got it down here, I think it's on down here, but anyways, yeah, the number 6 down here with your multi-tabs is to verify that you can get out to an email, okay, that you can go to google.com or something like that. I know sometimes we just open it up like a mail client and not even go to the browser. But this just verifies that you are getting out to something new. Now, you do want to try something different than what you already have open. If it's a constant page that you come to daily, doesn't mean that it's refreshed on your connections. Okay. So we'll go back and finish this email up real quick. Now, what I've done down here on the bottom here, and I can show you real quick. This is actually just the shortcut to the Municode packets, right? And if I click on that, it'll go. See what it's doing. Okay. Not gonna do it. There we go. Okay. it'll take you and download the packet automatically for you, and all you got to do is just open the file. So that's, if that contains everything, is that what y'all try to get them out to the email as a packet?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
You could just send them that link, and once they click on it, just open it up when it gets downloaded. Okay? Because from here, how they would gather that is just going to the municipal page in the packet. If you do a right click on the icon, you can save or copy a link and put it in your email. And just tell them that the packet's ready.
I actually do both. I attach it and I
give them
I give them the
And you
link.
both of them. Okay. Okay.
And you can always get your agenda and your package and stuff where he's at on the town website, as you see there.
Yeah.
Go to government agenda and minutes and then go down to the appropriate one. But we do send you your package and the link.
Okay. We'll go back here. Okay, and one thing about email, what you can do is actually send an email back to yourself. Include yourself in on the, so if it comes through, it's cycled through or the mail server and comes back. If it still has everything that you've included on it. And I've done it. I've sent out emails and forgot to attach anything. And you don't realize it till somebody said, well, sometimes it's pretty quick and sometimes it's like when you get to a meeting and you don't have all that you need. Okay. The other thing here is check outbox in your sent folders. And what I mean by that, let me get there. Okay. When you send an email out, we'll see if I can show you this. Just be a minute here. Let me see if I can. Okay, I think we should be able to see it there. I'm going to create an email. I'm just going to email. And I don't know if you realize the support at Wytheville.org will get all the IT department. So if somebody's not here, we all get it. So if that's a good way to communicate with us. Okay, so if I think I can do this. Okay, if we look here, I've got my new message ready to send out here. And over here where it's at now is actually the outbox. And then down here on the bottom, over here is the sent. So when you send an email, it goes to your outbox. Once it's sent, it goes to your sent items. So if you have a large attachment or something, it's good to look at your outbox and see if it's hung up in there. Especially you don't realize if I sit down, especially with an iPad or something quick, and attach the 5 made pictures or something on there, it's not just going to send out immediately. It's going to take a few minutes to go out. And if I close the top or get in a hurry, go out of range for another connection, it's got to sit there and think that connection before it actually starts sending. So sometimes things will get hung up in your outbox and you don't realize it until you go somewhere and then all of a sudden everybody gets emails. And that's one way we can tell, and I'm going to send this, and you should be able to see it go to your outbox and into the sent. See, it's in the outbox already. And then it comes into and goes out of your outbox. Okay. Okay, so now we'll go on to the, well, I guess we'll just stop and y'all have any questions on the email? And then we'll go to the internet connection. Okay.
They're smiling at me because they know I don't send emails, so they're just like, you ain't gonna get no email from Joe. If you do, there's gonna be all these misspelled words like you were talking about.
No.
And they'll think it's spam, but it's me.
Well, you know, it's really easy to flip your letters around sometimes. But, okay, so I guess we'll move on. Signal issues, and we can talk about some interference stuff here. Bluetooth devices, you know, it can be a mouse, it could be, you know, headsets, keyboards. You got Apple Watches now, you got different watches. They're getting better at getting them away from the 2.4 gigahertz on the newer devices. The encryption's helping. Some of the devices are coming with their encryption now. So all that stuff's helping. It's just if you might have an older version or something that still interferes with it. I think there's some animal collars out there that track animals around your house or something that works off to a certain frequency. If I remember, and it's been years ago, somebody put what was it? It was on top of a refrigerator. And it was like I'm thinking it was an extender for a TV remote. And it killed the internet. It just, because it was between them and wherever they set at for their, you know, computer or laptop or wherever they're at. So those things can affect everything. The number of devices that you've got around could affect it. And we go down, we got some radios, devices. Those would be like the baby monitors, walkie-talkies, different radio locators or anything. If you were into shortwave radio or something like that, it might affect some frequencies. Okay. Microwave oven, every one of us has got it. Well, I would think everybody's got it.
I use wood stove, I don't have it.
Yeah, you know, but they can interfere, and you know, especially if they're in. And I'll use my mother's house for it. Whenever they came in, they put her receiver in the farthest bedroom away from the house, where we basically live on the opposite side of the house. So if I'm sitting there in the chair, I can raise my phone up, I can lose connection. It's just that because my back, it's coming through me too, and you don't realize it. But it's a weak signal too. Mm-hmm. It just, to me, it should have been put in the middle of the house, but, you know, didn't want to think. Okay. The next thing on the list is the physical obstacles. That's going to be walls. It's going to be, you know, if you've got concrete walls or you got block walls or you got a log house, you know, the density can affect your internet connection. One thing, I don't know how common it is around here, I think it's hydronics heating, which is the radiant heating out of the tubes in the flooring. That can cause some interference. So a few things that you might not think of that could cause some problems. The number of devices that you have connected. You know, if you've got kids in for the holidays or something like that, you could have a lot of connections. Your neighbors, if you're close to neighbors, they can have some. So all those connections are going to drop it down. You're probably seeing some stuff on house cameras and stuff that you can put in. See, all those cameras, they're getting better quality and all that, and they're sending more data. Takes more bandwidth. Okay? But a way around it, and I'll just use the episode that my wife and I had. She got a Dell laptop, and when we turned the wireless on it, it killed our internet. It had that 4x4 connection set up on it. It would literally just wipe out the internet. Now, after updates and things like that, it seems to be okay now. But when we first got it, it was pretty rough. Okay. I think we've already talked about the multiple tabs and windows. I'd mentioned about checking your browser internet for your email working. Good way to just check. I mean, if you're going to open up to use emails, just pull up a web page and see if it comes in. The speedtest.net, that's what we use most of the time to test our speed. And if you pull it up, it's just speedtest.net. And if you notice there on the bottom there, you've got, right now it shows from Point Broadband to Point Broadband, but that's our provider. So we're going to Bristol for a checkup, and you just hit go. Now, if it doesn't bring those points up down there on the bottom, you're probably not getting connected out, okay? Even though that your little window or your little arches says that you're connected, this is a good way to say that you're not getting out beyond, you might be getting down the road, you might be hitting your router that's in your house, but you're not getting on beyond that, okay? And we'll just let this play out a minute. Okay, so 159 megabits, 268, 53. Not too bad. Okay, now if we look at the desktop here, and I'll just mention this. This VPN that we've set up here, this would be on the new laptops, if y'all receive them. We've set this VPN connection, which is the blue connection here. And that actually connects y'all into here on the VPN. Okay? Which would secure your connection. If you were out somewhere and you wasn't really comfortable of your Wi-Fi connection, you could connect here, and that would put you in going to our firewall going out, okay, which is just the added layer of protection. Eventually, we probably will have to follow the guidelines, and everybody will be connecting VPN about everywhere you go, with everything getting secured. It's on its way. Okay, so I just mentioned that real quick. And as far as computer and devices, things do get hung up. First thing, if you call IT, would be have you restarted your machine. That's just what we normally do. It actually clears out the cache, which is your, I guess, the memory that's being used at the time. So if you had, 10 websites open and 3 or 4 different apps, you're using the resources of the machine, okay? It can get to the point it doesn't have enough information or enough space to work with. So what happens, things start to get hung up. Okay, so once you do a shutdown restart, that clears all that out for that time being and allocates that space back up on your memory. Okay, now it doesn't mean if your app starts opening back up, it's going to go down again. But it's like on your cell phone. If you probably notice that if you got certain apps opened up, the battery drains pretty quick. That tells you that something's working in the background. Same thing with computers. If it uses the memory of what resources your computer has, it's going to eventually have some issues. So restarting shutdown does a lot. And then the second line, if you see up there, is the updates. Right there. Same thing with the updates. A lot of times, and I just saw it the other day on one of these laptops you have here, we can check updates manually, or we got them scheduled to come in and do it at certain times. But with these laptops being off most of the time, we got to come in and do them. Most of the time, if it needs to restart, it will tell you that it needs to reboot. Okay? Most of the time. I had one the other day, was just sitting there, it would not give me any updates, it just sit there and twirled until I did a restart, and then it told me it was putting in updates. So, it's good to just, if you do see something or you have a little issue, to do a restart on a machine. Okay? And then on number 3 down there, basically I've already hit some of that, is the resources you use, page to open, and the apps open, and you can pay attention. It gets really, I guess, efficient or something to just open up emails after email, and if you don't respond back to them, you just leave them open in the back on the bottom. My advice would be to mark them or flag them and then close them, and then you can come back to them. Because if you start opening them up and, again, each one of those tabs that you open it up is going to take resources. Used to be, and it's not as bad now, if, like on your Internet Explorer and everything, if you opened up tabs is more resources than it was to open up new windows. You don't think about that. Used to the browsers, you just opened up new windows and you had 5 or 10 windows opened up. Now you've got those tabs, so each one of those tabs adds on to the resources. But then again, you've got faster machines, you've got more memory, you've got more resources. Okay. Well, I hope that helps. Maybe the refresher, basic, quite a few basics.
Thank you so much.
Any questions or anything on anything? Okay. And I will turn this back over to Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Jude.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Next on the agenda is review of ordinance number 1455, and ordinance amending town code regarding a town-operated cat shelter, and interim town manager Sherry Corbin.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. The council had asked if I would prepare an ordinance to note in our town code that we would operate a cat shelter. And so I did that. In the wording, if you would notice that it says that the town may operate a cat shelter in the very first sentence. You can say that it may. I know there's been some discussion that we say the town of Wytheville shall operate a cat shelter. It's at the council's pleasure as to what wording they want to put in there, but this will be a new section for the town code. Then I also did lay a revised copy around the table today that said that the cat shelter will be operated in accordance with the town of Wytheville cat shelter policy. And that is a new, The police department does have a policy that they use for sick animals, but we do not have a procedural policy per se, but they do have one for sick animals. So that's something we could, work on, getting a cat shelter policy. But so this is just before the council for your review and comments, and this would be at the August 25th meeting for your approval. So that you wouldn't need to vote on this tonight, but this is just your draft copy. If you have any comments or questions about it, we'd be glad to change the wording however council would like for it to be.
I do have some discussion. I was really hoping that we could look at some other communities, what they have already in place as a cat shelter policy, because I don't know what to ask for, but it seems to me like it needs to be a lot more specific. It doesn't say any, it's just not enforceable. All it says is we're going to keep cats, but the idea is to make it more understood and more in-depth. That's what I was hoping to see. But I don't know what to ask for, so I was hoping we could get a cat shelter policy from some other town and see what they're doing.
Yes, sir. We could contact other localities.
Might be just as easy because, like I said, but it's not specific at all. And that's going to be hard when you're trying to enforce something when it doesn't say you have to do anything, really. So it's really not holding us to obligations that I feel like we're trying to do. I mean, if the council wants to do this, and if we're going to build a cat shelter, at least go down that path, I think this ordinance needs to be a lot more supportive of that being staffed. I mean, it doesn't talk about being staffed. Now the police cat shelter, their policy, I don't know what that says. I would like
It
to
just
see
talks
that.
about how that, what happens if you have a sick animal.
See, that doesn't have really anything to do. So I think I'd like to see it a lot more.
Normally, the
Described.
policy would not be a part of our code. The code would just reference the policy, and then the policy would be kept in a separate place.
So we need to upgrade our policy, not the ordinance? Is that what you're
We
saying?
would need to do both. We need to change the code, and then we would need to put a policy in place, a cat shelter policy. So what staff could do is contact other localities and, see if we could come up with a draft cat shelter policy to go with this code change.
And also work with our current animal officers and see what
Yes.
they think. I mean, ask what they would like to
Yes.
see as
And
far
they-
as.
And I did get that.
Because I
I
just
did
don't
get the
know what to
cat
ask
shelter.
for. And so maybe we could do that and work on it a little bit more. And
Yes, we could do
just
that.
thought. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Okay. Yeah, we'll work on, with them, and I did ask for a copy of their cat shelter policy and all. Like I said, all they had was like for sick animals, but we certainly want their input, and they may know of a locality with a cat shelter policy that we could work from.
Thank you.
Make one for the town of
I
Wytheville.
appreciate it.
Any other questions or dialogue on that? Just bring it back.
We'll bring it back. It may not be
That's probably a
in
little
2 weeks.
too
It might take a
soon.
little
I
bit
think
to
this
do
might
all
be-
that, so
Move it out to
we may
September if you would
put it
consider
out
that.
a month or so. Okay.
What is a public animal shelter? I still want to go back to the county. And I looked up the VML handbook, and it says the key component for county's responsibilities is to establish and maintain a county public animal shelter. Is that cat and dogs?
I suppose that it could be. Right now, the county just takes care of the dogs and the town
Well,
takes
and I
care
think
of the
that's where
cats.
we've been lenient over the years. I really, that's my personal opinion. I think we've been lenient over the years. We have allowed them only to take care of dogs. And when it's their responsibility to establish and maintain a public animal shelter, to me, that's cats and dogs. That's just my opinion.
Chief Hash, do you mind to come to the podium just a second? Does the town, I hear, I'm a little confused, I hear that the county takes care of just the town or dogs. And I think supposedly we just take care of the cats. If I'm, and I could be wrong, but do the animal control officers, and police officers, do they not pick up dogs as well?
Yes, we do pick up dogs.
Okay.
And we
So
do have
they-
access to the
Yes,
Wythe
sir,
County
but
Dog
I mean,
Shelter.
we do deal with dogs. We do deal with dogs.
Yes,
I just
we
want to
do.
make sure. Okay, that's fine. I wasn't for sure because I hear that we just take care of, but to the best of my knowledge, I've actually seen animal control actually deal with dogs too. So I
Right.
didn't know if there was a difference, so.
Yeah, if we get a dog call, we normally take care of it. And if we have to pick it up, we pick it up and take it to the dog shelter.
In the county, I think, and I could be wrong, have they not helped assist us in after hours and different things like that and different weather conditions? Do they not assist the town animal control and officers before in the past?
Yes, they have.
Okay, just wondering. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Any more comments or on that?
We'll bring that back at a later date.
Okay, review of a quote for time clocks for town facilities. Once again, interim town manager, Sherry Court.
Yes, ma'am. As you'll see in your package, there have been some discussion about possibly placing time clocks in all the town facilities. And so, a director of Human Resources, Hildreth, provided me with a copy of a quote, and it's in your package for if the council wanted to consider to place time clocks in all of the town facilities. Now, this would be an unbudgeted expense again, so it may not be that the council desires to do that at this time, and if they don't, you could wait and consider it at a later time if you would like to do that. But I did just bring this back for your review if you're interested in that.
Is it in the budget?
No, ma'am, it's not in the budget.
Okay.
Would this help cut down on issues with like timesheets and stuff we've had? Like,
Well, what the time clock does, they're all digital. So an employee would have a badge and they would come in, as they come into the facility, they would take the badge and put it up to the time clock and it would automatically populate that time onto their timesheet. So there would be, nobody would have to go in and physically do that.
would that help payroll in a sense of, with the timesheets or?
What it would do is especially help large departments with a number of employees that have to go in daily to physically go in and sign in and then put their time in the timesheet. Whereas if you had the time clock, you would just, like I said, this badge would allow the time just go straight on an employee's timesheet. The end of the time period, they would go and it should be complete. And then they would just have to print it or submit it to their supervisor electronically is how we do it now for approval.
I mean, I think it's a good thing to consider, but I would like to consider it in the next budget.
Next fiscal year.
My personal,
So would this help cut down on people like signing in across like around town and things like that?
Yes.
They
Yes,
couldn't do
ma'am.
that. They could
No,
just
they
have to
wouldn't be able
be
to do
somewhere accountable.
They would have to be on post to sign
Yes,
in.
yes, ma'am. They would have to be at the facility with their badge to be able to clock in.
And they would not be there, it would be the exact time they punch in and the
Yes,
exact
ma'am.
time they punch out.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay. Upon review, it is what it is, correct? The time?
Yes, and like if someone accidentally forgot to clock in or something, only the supervisor, I think with this system, is able to go in and make that change. It would have to be a supervisor that did that.
Okay. But, hold on, you said the supervisors could go in and make the change?
Yes, ma'am.
I
Yeah, there'd have to be.
I don't personally have an appetite for this at the moment, it's not in the budget. And, I personally haven't heard enough concerns that we need to put time clocks in all of these facilities myself. I haven't heard that from HR or from staff. So for me, I'm not interested in proceeding this for a couple of reasons. And one of the reasons is I don't want to send the employees a message that I don't trust them. And to all of a sudden install all these time clocks, I don't know that that's the intent, but it feels to me like we might send them a message that we don't trust them. And I just think that's really bad timing for us to even think about that. If this were something that HR said, we have a real problem, we need this, I would feel differently about that. But that's not, I have not heard that since I've been here. So for me, I'm not interested in it.
currently the only facility that utilizes it, I believe, is the recreation center. And they like it and, seem to get along well with it. But we could certainly bring it back at another time or we could put it in the next fiscal year budget.
I don't have an issue with the time clocks, and I can make it clear, I don't have any trust issues, but at the same time, I think that things need to be done proper and in order. When it comes to that, I clock in and out, and I have no issue clocking in and out on my job.
I think it's as I said, a good thing to have more discussion going forward before the next budget. The other thing that I think I heard that it will also help the department heads from having to do a lot of running themselves and save them some time. But I would like to hear that from them at some point, coming up, if we're going to do it for next fiscal year or whatnot.
If it will help save on time with the department heads, I would like to see it. But like I said, I don't have any trust issues. I clock in and out every day. Every day I work, I go to the time clock, I clock in. When it's time to go home, I clock out. I don't care for remote clock-ins. I care for post clock-in.
Should we bring it back at the end of fiscal year or just put somewhere after it gets in the budget?
We could, whatever the council's desire, we could just get a different quote at the end of this fiscal year for the next year. And it's completely up to the council how they'd like to handle it. I was just bringing it back before the council.
I think we did have, and this may have been before Mr. Hand came on, I think there was a little discussion where there was some hesitant on people having issues with like not following or not really worrying about timesheets. From the best of my recollection and memory, there was some concern before. Do you remember that, Mayor Taylor?
Vaguely. So we can bring it back
Yes, ma'am.
and the next budget round, if that's okay with council. Some more dialogue.
Can we bring this back in December, maybe? See where we are in the budget? Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it come back in as well.
Okay, normally we would start working on the budget probably, wouldn't you think, around January? We'll start putting that together, hopefully. So after the first of the year, we could bring it back and see what it is. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next on the agenda is a review of current electronic meeting participation policy.
Okay, this is the policy that the council has adopted, and what it does is allow you to, if you're unable to attend, or if you're sick or something, this is a policy that allows you to participate electronically. And so now I believe that it's a state law that we're supposed to adopt it annually, and as you can see, it was revised last July and adopted. There are no current changes. There weren't any state law changes that I had to make to it this year. It's just that it needs to be adopted again. And I will put that on the August 25th Town Council agenda to be adopted at that time. But there were absolutely no changes made to it this year.
I do have one question. Mr. Castle, can you look at page like 41, and if this is, and I just want to make sure I'm clear on this, if someone is doing like a Zoom in the meeting because for some reason they cannot be here, if we go to page 41, can you explain can you go into depth a little bit about the closed meeting, what that states?
I'm having to look at that.
I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, it just requires it requires the remote participant to maintain confidentiality. which is the same obligation that the person has regardless. So if you're doing a Zoom, you would have to make sure you're alone and that no one else can overhear you. Okay? That's what it says. Okay?
Okay. All right. So no one on the other end, if the participant's not in this physical meeting, should be like talking to anybody or anything like that.
There should not be anyone else that can hear the proceedings that are going on in the closed session. Unless they were invited in. They could be, someone else could be invited in by the entire council, but unless they are, it should be maintained confidential.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
So you'll see that again on your agenda at the next council meeting for adoption.
All right, I know our attorney's gonna get out of here pretty soon, so, council member time, Vice Mayor?
I do, I believe that, Chief House, you can correct me if I'm wrong, on August the 29th at 1 p.m., there will be the dedication of the bench at the police department in memory of Lieutenant Clemens. Okay. The 29th at 1 p.m.
But also have Tommy Lester.
At what time?
And then the benches at one.
Mrs. Corbin, will we have Mr. Lester come in and do the, like we do?
To receive a resolution and like that.
Yes.
Normally, the Human Resources Department does all of those at one time. They did last year.
That's right, I've already,
So
I
they-
remember you answering. Okay. I
Yes, sir.
remember.
So
Thank
they,
you.
I'm not sure when they have it scheduled this year, but they should have all the retirees come in at one
At one
time.
time. Thank you.
Seconds? Anything? Anything?
Yeah, Madam Mayor and Ms. Corbin, for the record, show my attendance tonight at 4:20 p.m., please.
And show mine, I got here 30 seconds early. I don't have anything tonight.
All right. So at this time, town council feels it necessary to go into closed session pursuant to 2.2-3711A1 to discuss personnel issues. I need a motion.
So move.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. We are now in closed session.
Those opposed, nay,
Oh, sorry.
just for the record.
Town council now feels it's necessary to come out into open session. Council is now in open session. A motion is necessary to certify that only matters lawfully convening to the open session were discussed. I need a motion.
So moved.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? This will be a roll call vote. Vice Mayor?
Johnson, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Allison, aye.
Right. We are now in open session. Does council have any other business to be taken care of this evening? When here none, we are adjourned.
Thank you.